my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo, where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course, and man, happy Tuesday here. Happy, I don't know, first week back to work after a long weekend for some of us. I enjoyed the hell out of having a week off. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Sometimes you just need those breaks. I have to say, it is a blessing to be at this point in my life in so many different ways, but like, you know, just to kind of stew for a second of where my head's at, because y'all know I kind of use this podcast as like my personal diary at times. But it's a blessing to be at a place where I can hear what I need from my body or from my mind, and then I'm unafraid to take action on it in the real world. And what I mean by that is, I was the type of person who never took a sick day, who worked on every single holiday, particularly when I was in radio. I was volunteering for every possible open shift. I was just working like crazy. You know, I really didn't take days off for a long period of time for years. And now, at this point in my life, being at a place, not even like talking financially, but just mentally understanding what's incredibly important and being unafraid to express like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this holiday and I'm going to give myself a much needed week off. You know, like even when I first started this podcast, I believe if you go back to season 1, we pretty much almost completely, I think with the exception of when my building got completely flooded after a hurricane, I think with the exception of that, I didn't break for any holidays really or anything. Maybe like Thanksgiving when it obviously lands on a Thursday. We didn't do an episode that day, or maybe Christmas or something like that. But I didn't take any of these other smaller holidays off. I didn't just take breaks or a vacation for you know, to recoup. I just went straight through almost 120 episodes in that first season. And I think now it's not about being too comfortable or not having the same work ethic. It's also about understanding priorities, right? And understanding that I'm allowed to take time for myself. I'm allowed to, be honest with what I need, right? Because I think oftentimes when we are trying to put on the brave face or the tough face, be it with our family, be it with our bosses, our job, whatever it is, trying to be that person that's always like Mr. and Mrs. Reliable, you know, I think we adapt that facade because it feels good to get the validation from everyone. Like, oh my God, can you believe how hard they work? They never take a day off. But the reality is, like, internally, we're probably suffering a bit, even if it's just from physically being burnt out or mentally being burnt out. We're not taking care of ourselves. It's just not a sustainable thing. And even knowing that, many of us fear or don't, don't believe that we deserve to have that time for ourselves to recoup, or don't believe that it's a necessary thing that we need to make time for. So, I don't know, for whoever needs to hear this, and I understand everybody's in different situations, but in some sort of way, you have to figure out a way to fill your cup back up. You can't just keep pouring from an empty cup, as they say. And I'm proud of myself, and I'm just kind of putting it out there. And I guess it's just like a reminder to myself of how far I've come, that I understand it can't always be 100 miles an hour, and that, you have to take care of the vessel that carries your mind and carries you around day to day towards your goals, right? I'm speaking of my body, or even, being mentally exhausted, drained, understanding that I have to take care of those things in order to be who I want to be in both my career and in my personal life. And those are all sort of, I guess, newer discoveries for me, and just that I want to share that I'm proud of myself for doing. And I encourage anybody who feels like they've been, neglecting themselves a bit, figure out a way to kind of take care of yourself in whatever way you can. All right. So with that said, that's my little mini, diary entry. We're gonna have a guest on today's show. I'm really excited about this. I think we're gonna have an interesting perspective. So this person, her name is Blu Nile. I met her she actually sat in on one of the Just Be Social clubs, which we're still enrolling. We have 8 days left for the enrollment of the second group. If you want to be a part of that, DM me at DJ Dramos on Instagram or email Brenda at mindofayounglord.com. But I quickly met her through that, and I thought it'd be an interesting perspective to have somebody who has completely really lived the artist life while also, being incredibly spiritual and going down that road as well. But particularly with the artist life, because I know that I may glorify things sometimes with like, oh, quit your job and go through your passions and all that. But I really want to reiterate the roller coaster ride that it is to follow your dreams, to be passionate about what you do. And I think the roller coaster ride that it is to be authentically you in a world that loves to put us in a box. And I love reiterating this message because it's really difficult and alienating and at times lonely to follow your passions and to follow what actually makes you happy. And I think it's important that I give you the real side of everything and also let you understand that fear you may have is justified, and let you know that if you are on this journey and you are feeling these feelings of loneliness, isolation, alienation from those around you, you're not alone. And I think this conversation is going to be a great reminder of that. So I'm really excited to get into it. So without further ado, enough talking to just me. We're going to bring on our guest today for our Mi Gente segment. Mi Gente. My guest today is, a lot of different things. A healer, a multi-dimensional artist. She's a musician, a writer, a poet, a multi-hyphenate, I believe would be the terminology that I've heard her throw around as well. Blu Nile, how you feeling?
What up? What up? How y'all living? I'm feeling blessed and highly favored. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I love the energy off the get here. And I think, I relate to, I think, so much of what you do, because I feel like I've always been that person that has his hand in a million and one different things. And it never seems to make sense to anyone except for me. You know what I mean? So I couldn't help but feel like looking at your content that we're probably in a very similar boat.
Yes.
So yes. I wanted to dive into that. And I mean, I know you're heavy on the spiritual side of things as well. And yoga practices and meditation and healing and all these different things. So I guess let's just first kind of like start the basis, I guess, with your journey a little bit, right? Let's first kind of talk a bit about, I guess your first moments diving into any sort of art in particular. And then I guess at what point in life the whole idea of spirituality found you as well, just to kind of set the base for anybody.
Okay, fire. Yeah, no, I see you. I feel you. I'm limitless. I started dancing when I was 3 years old. I signed my first record deal at 16. I was touring, open up for everybody. I'm a 90s kid. So like I toured with Jay-Z, Ja Rule, like all these. I was a baby going through a lot of early hip hop, and it was traumatic. I had my own trauma. So spirituality came in when like I had a nervous breakdown at the age of 20, and I nearly almost died. Like they were putting drugs in a champagne bottle, ecstasy. That's how I started the drug journey. And I didn't even know. Wow. So I'm very candid and I keep it 100. So everybody out there, just so you know, have no fears to let you know. So I was writing songs, I rap, I sing, I dance, I do all that jazz. And truly, I was just trying to get out of the hood of Boston. And I moved to New York. And then New York is just a bigger Boston. And then my life changed when I moved to California. I thought I came here for my music and my acting and all this, but I came here to save my life. Like I had wide open spaces for me to finally be in my body and not be in a trauma response. Okay.
Sure. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I asked you that question about where you found your spirituality, because I think it's obviously something that many people from our community, probably most, were not growing up around, right? Probably traditional religion, perhaps, but not the terms of really sort of self-healing and meditation and all those different things. And, I think for me, I found spirituality probably roughly around the same age as you, when I was 20, and I was a musician as well. And this was when I was in a band and we were, touring, very small kind of rough tour circuit type of thing. But I just remember this feeling of like, man, there just has to be more to life than this, right? And a lot of my peers were kind of in that post high school era where we're partying every night and And then I'm on the road playing music, and I love playing music, but there's also a superficial element to the entertainment industry. And it just
Yep.
kept feeling like I was seeing something that nobody else around me was seeing. And that sort of led me to exploring, different philosophers and things like
Yeah.
that. Would you mind kind of diving in a bit deeper? Like, what was the first thing that
Yeah.
clicked for you, be it when you got to California or when it was after you kind of had this,
So
this
kinda
breakdown?
I kind of took your question more like my artist. I didn't, the spirituality, I was born that way. So thank God, quite honestly, when I was in the cradle,
Yeah.
I remember I would see spirits. I would see, I called them imaginary friends. My mom made plates for them. I was born and a highly sensitive, an empath. I was born with all these gifts, right? And I didn't even know,
Sure.
I thought I was crazy. And then I had traumatics happen, but my angels, I saw angels. I still do, and I claim it now to be ease and softness. But I had it's called clear cognizance, when it's a deep knowing. Like I know I've seen the afterlife because I've had near death experiences. But before that, I talked to God. I would stare and look out the window and pray to God to get on one of those planes, and God would talk to me. Like I have a direct channel to my higher power. Born that way, always had it.
That's interesting. Because it's very obviously different than a lot of stories. So what's your mom's background then? If she was kind of introducing this into your life, how does that happen? What's her kind of, I guess, connection to that?
She wasn't introducing this to my life. I was telling her I was experienced, and my mother, God bless her, but she was in street life. I was raised gangsters and pimps and drug dealers and all that, and my mom was the down woman by their side doing it all too. So she had no rules for me. I had nobody telling me what to do. So I was able to be a free thinker and create. And she didn't shut me down. She said, whatever you want, do it. Like, it was a little too open. I was way too free. That's why I got into a little trouble. But on the other hand, I was able to develop naturally with my own spirit.
Right. Yeah. That's I was going to say the negative side of it, I'm sure as well, like too much of a leash to let you go off and run off as well. So, I mean, through that whole journey of like the music industry and then going through this whole kind of breakdown, I guess it seems like moving to California though was like a bigger aha moment. Or am I kind of overextending?
No. You're absolutely correct. It was like I got here and all of a sudden I was shooting a music video, and then the griff on the music video was smoking it with sage, right? And I was like, God, it was a Native American. And I walked up to, his name was Angel, still my friend, invited me to Native American ceremonies. And I started working with peyote and plant medicine and training and learning from the chiefs, Marvin Swallow, and like all of sacred ceremony and healing my trauma with the Native Americans. Like it right off the bat, spirit healers, psychics, intuitives, mediums, everywhere I walk was like, you have this gift, you have to heal this. And I was like, yo, what is going on? The land of California is where I needed to come, because it's not a concrete jungle. I wasn't in survival mode anymore.
Right. Well, and what's interesting to me is like what you're talking, you were naturally open to all of these things, right? It was almost like you didn't have that social blocker that a lot of us have, where we look at these things, we write them off as somebody's crazy or it's silly or it's weird, right? And we sort of push it away because it's different, which is kind of like a societal norm, right? Anything that's different gets ostracized. So I for you, I guess on this whole journey, how did you then have interactions with people who weren't on that same path and maybe didn't have the openness? Because I think that's a lot of what I hear from people who go on this journey of finding themselves, right? And it could be the simplest thing of going to therapy in a family that doesn't believe in therapy, right? Or have a spouse that doesn't believe in it. And as they go down this journey, it's like you open Pandora's box and you begin to see things that you never saw before. And the problem with that is it's incredibly enlightening and empowering, but it also makes you feel incredibly alone if you don't have a circle of people who are into the same thing as you. And a consistent thing that I've heard, that I've felt myself, is as I went on this journey and as I explored, as I grew personally, I began to find it harder and harder to relate to those around me. And, that's the whole purpose of building this community and just being all these things, because I'm searching for what I felt like I've been missing for the majority of my life. So I'm curious for you, how have you navigated that, even at a young age, of being able to interact with the world at hand while kind of being able to see things differently than anybody else around you?
Yo, Dramos, I felt so alone, son. Like I was so alone. It was the most loneliest journey and isolated journey. And it was something that I had to I was drinking and using drugs to like numb out. I'm 6 years
Mm.
now clean of because I drink and break out and party drugs sometimes, at least in my past. And it
Yeah.
was because I felt so alone and I was trying to be a part of, because I'm a unicorn. Even
Hmm.
with the labels in the industry, they're like, yo, can you just do this? Can you fit into
Right.
this system? And I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah.
doing me. They're like,
Yeah.
you're dope, but like, no, we don't want to start this new wave. And I'm like, well, I am me. Like, what's the
Right.
problem? You know what I'm saying? So it
Hmm.
was lonely. I went to church. I went to therapy. I got help because I had therapists when my dad died, and they suggested that I try some 12-step communities, just to be 100% honest. And
Yeah.
I found people who were, I sought, I'm a seeker, seeker, seeker. I sought people who were trying to change, because I
Mm.
had to literally get rid of everybody in my life. They were calling me the hip hop Oprah, saying I'm crazy. I'm like, yo, to me at 7 years old is really holding me back. Like, I got to heal this. And they're like, it's not happening today. No, you're crazy,
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not. And I'm so grateful that I listened to myself, but it was a lonely journey, dog, like lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that that's what gets missed a lot for many people is like, you need a support system, and it's I think one thing to recognize when you have an issue, whatever it might be it you have a bad temper, you have a drug problem, you have an alcohol problem, whatever it might be, you have a sexual addiction, whatever it is, obviously coming to terms with that and looking in the mirror is a huge part of it. But the other part is also cutting out the other aspects of your life and people in your life who don't support this new route that you're taking at the end of the day, right? And
That
that's where yeah, exactly. But it's so fucking tough because a lot of times it's those that are closest to you. It might be your parents, shit. It might be your boyfriend, girlfriend, your husband, your wife, whatever it is. And that I think is where a lot of people find it hard to really dive headfirst into their sort of true self-empowerment, is because of how
Yeah.
difficult it is to take that final step of separating yourself from people who might not even be bad people, right? They might be great people, but they're just not on the same journey as you. And by having
Right
people
now.
right now, exactly. And what happens is you're just dragging dead weight along, essentially, at the current moment that you're in. And it's the same shit with friends when you're in the music industry and you got people just hanging around all the time, and they're there for the good times, and they don't understand that it's a business and it's a job for you, and there are boundaries that can't be crossed, right? And you have to have
Mhm.
those difficult decisions. And again, not everybody can come along for the ride. I mean, is there? I love how you said not right now though. So that obviously means
Yes.
that when we speak about this sort of big change or putting people to the side for the time being, it doesn't have to be this finite experience or this finite thing. So I'm curious for you, what came to your mind when you're talking about the idea of it not sort of being final?
Well, for me, like, I believe in hope. Like, hold on, pain ends. I was just talking
Mm.
with one of my teachers, and people are thimbles, right? And I am an ocean. If I'm going to a thimble, somebody with a thimble capacity, right? I was just putting
Mhm.
this, and I'm expecting them, like I go to the hardware store looking for a loaf of bread. You know what I'm saying? I have to come into honest inventory of where I am today, and see and be brave enough to know, like, that I must take this journey because this is my spiritual evolution. And whoever's
Mhm.
not there, like, no diss to you, but this is end codependency and me
Yeah.
get in my lane, like the horse track, like the jockey. This is a fact. When they look into the other lane, the horse falls. So I
Right.
got to get in the lane and run my race and not allow, and I can't pull you with me. I
Yeah.
can't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, I completely do it. It's tough. I had recently gotten out of a relationship, and I've gotten kind of back into dating, and I've met a lot of really good people, but I've also had to come to terms with some people just aren't at the same place I am in life,
Yeah.
and I can't fall in love with their potential. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And because then I'm just holding myself back, right? Or I'm dumbing myself down, or I'm leaving myself feeling anxious because I'm not getting from them what I need at this point in my life because they're not capable of delivering it yet,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet, right, exactly. And I like the idea of always kind of leaving that door open because people can surprise you, and
I mean,
everybody's on their own journey.
not always,
Right.
not
Well,
always, baby boy.
there's
Like,
boundaries,
not
right?
always. Sometimes
Right.
you got to be like, peace, love, and bless you all the way over there, 3,000 miles away.
Right.
Mean it, but goodbye.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, the people that are just committed to the fuckery, like, yes, stay over there.
Exactly.
But those that are actually good human beings, they just haven't arrived at the same point as you yet in your journey.
Right.
You can always leave that door open. But again, I think it's understanding that anybody or anything in your life that isn't serving a purpose towards your progression is in fact holding you back, right? It's the idea of whenever you say yes to something, you're inevitably saying no to something else.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I wrote a book called Trauma Thriver, because rap turned into poetry. And at once I can't be a victim, right? I can't be a victim. I have to come being a victim and then I survive. But I cannot stay in survival mode. That's exhausting. So therefore, I desire to thrive, meaning be happy, joyous, enjoy what I do. And using that, and on my practices, I'm like, I'm a Reiki healer, I'm a Reiki master. Everything is energy, right? And once you learn the laws of the universe and you realize that, the water seeks to the level that it's at, right? Water seeks to the level it's at. So I must expand my energy and heal my energy field and then move to those people there. And then just be a tuning fork and hope that people will be inspired and want to uplift. And if not, be okay with leaving the space open for the new people with a higher frequency that I can learn from. And we can be reciprocity each other. Level up and get out of victim mode. Like, oh, poor me, happened to me. Like, it's justified, but like, I can't be 30 years old with a shitty diaper, dog. Like, I got to get out of that and stop being a crybaby and, grow up.
No, 100. I think two things can be true. Yes, it's unfortunate this happened to me, but also it's in my power to now move forward. You know what I mean? And I think something you said that, as we're having this conversation, I want to reiterate, because I think it's easy when we're not in the situation where we move past it to speak about it as if like you just got to move on. But it's normal to have emotions tied to it. It's normal to have sadness when you're talking about people or things in your life that were a big part of your life, but knowing that you need to separate from them for the time being for your progression. There's going to be a mourning period, right? And there's going to be anxiety. There's going to be fear. There's going to be self-doubt. All of that is normal. And that's what you probably should be feeling when talking about making these big decisions. So I want to make sure I kind of reiterate that it's also not just this cut and dry thing that like when you know, and there's never any emotions attached to it.
And that's not what I'm saying either. Y'all are getting the healed. I'm 40 years old. I'll be 41 in August. Like I've been in this life doing it since the age of 7 in the bricks and the projects. You know what I mean? Like I started my healing journey at 20 years old. So 20 years of healing. Okay. Now I am very compassionate and I'm a high functioning person. One of my dear friends took his life in December. The world happy. Rest in peace to Twitch. Like one of my dear friends, no one would thought he would do that. So I am not an advocate for spiritual bypassing. I'm just like, okay, I feel this feeling. Get a therapist, get a 12-step, get a coach. That's why I'm a spiritual coach, because I know how to break free out of myself. And we're beyond human aid, dog. Like I need a higher power of my own understanding and heal that religious trauma. I'm talking spirit. God bless all the 450 plus religions, but love is the common thread. So love is my religion. Spirituality is limitless. So I like to inspire people to know that. And grief is something we must have compassion for. Like, dog, if you're a human, we're grieving every day from what's happening in this,
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't have put that better myself. And I think on the other side of this conversation, because obviously, like we've talked about, you do so many different things, as being an artist, I kind of want to focus in on that because it's something I relate to a lot. And I feel like I haven't had a ton of artists on the podcast as of late. And one thing I want to touch on, because, I'm a big advocate on, do what feels right to you. You know what I mean? Don't let yourself get caught up in societal norms, be it a traditional 9 to 5 or whatever it is. Like, don't suppress the part of yourself that actually brings you the joy and fulfillment. But at the same time, you also have to be prepared for the difficulty that comes along with a life that is going to be led by what actually makes you happy and passionate, because the capitalistic system that we live in today and the societal norms that we live in are not conducive to people living a life of passion, right? That's just not what the norm is. So there are going to be hurdles and barriers every step of the way. So on the idea of not glorifying the artist path, but talking about it in a real sense, I'd love to kind of hear your perspective a bit on the roller coaster ride that it is to actually live this life of trying to live in your passion and in what actually brings, fulfillment to your heart.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, it's been a roller coaster ride. And like you said, I've latched on, I've gotten mentors, I've gotten coaches. I dove into learning all modalities for myself. Like, I'm a yoga teacher, but as a dancer performer, like, yoga goes along with that to stretch if you're going to be healthy. So I was always self-care, learning what that is, right? And like self-care, like Audre Lorde said, is self-care is self-preservation, it's not self-indulgence. It's literally an act of political warfare, right? And I'm an activist. I'm an artist born that way, like wanting to inspire people. So I kind of always had a mission. It started with wanting to save my mother, from her pimp boyfriends and like from her life and her choices. And then I realized I couldn't. But then that was still in me. I'm writing, and hip hop. Hip hop was activism at first. So rapping and getting it out, healing myself in my words and like poetry and like being a speaker and inspiring people, but always deep diving, reading every self-help book, like going to every seminar, every workshop, doing every training, getting all the certifications. So being a student, like being willing to stay a student. Like I've always been humble, a little too humble, I think, before it was cocky. Now I'm confident and still humble. And I still want to be less humble, honestly, because I want to get in people's faces more. But I'm very humble student, but I'm a teacher. So I think having that willingness to learn, whether it's cadence, recording, engineering, producing, like all of it is spiritual to me.
Right. No, because I think it's an energy that draws you in at the end of the day, right? Like I can't describe what it is. I DJ and I can't describe, what comes over me, how I lock in when I'm in sync with the crowd in a room. You know what I mean? It's just something I feel that I don't even need to look at them. I just can tell when it's hitting. You know what I mean? I can tell when we're on the same page. And there's something spiritual about it. And I've begun to see it, the deeper into my career where I think there's like something spiritual about the way my fingers just know the CDJs and the mixer. And I'm not thinking about what my hand is doing or anything like that, right? There's this beauty in being lost in what you're doing. And
that creative flow state,
Exactly. And because it's something energy-wise and you're drawn to something, it's natural then as a creative to be drawn to so many different things. But I think a lot of people, because again of societal norms, it's like fit into a box. What are you? We have to easily identify what you do, right? When I make an introduction for you as a person, it needs to be simple to the point that I could tell somebody this thing, right? But it's just not real. If you are creative, if you are inspired by the world around you, you're naturally going to be drawn to different things, right? And maybe some of them you might pursue more than others. You might be more naturally gifted at one or the other, but it's natural to kind of be bouncing around in that way. And I think as children, we kind of have that and it's okay, right? But somewhere along the line, our parents, school, society tells us, okay, enough of the childhood fantasy of I want to do this, and that. Pick one thing and that's going to be your life, right? And I think this is one of those cases where we can learn a lot from children because I think children are far more in tune with like what naturally is their being. And then eventually it gets stripped away little by life as the days kind of go on. And I'm kind of, curious for you as somebody who does all of these different things. Do you ever, because this is the one thing they'll say is because if you are doing a bunch of different things, they'll say that you'll never master anything, right? And that's the knock that a lot of people like to say. What is your thought process for the idea of dipping and dabbling and kind of just really following where your heart and your inspiration is called to?
So check it, right? I took the CEO of Nickelodeon, I've had so many mastermind meetings with so many successful people who have told me, throw every ball at the wall and see what sticks.
Right?
Who is they? Is that decolonize my mind, get out of the box of like anything that is a controlled system that is not a system that I've created. I had to learn to create my own system and stop giving a fuck what anybody thinks, quite honestly. And to like get in my own lane. And that took a lot of work, y'all. And I understand everybody out there, if you're listening and you're new at this, I don't seek validation from the outside of me no more. And y'all, Master, I've been doing this for 14 years, like in a good place. First 7 years, I was crying in blood and tears to heal myself, to let go and heal my energy field. Once I learned that everything is energy and everything is spiritual, and I can be childlike and not childish and have fun. Like being in the studio with Dr. Dre, right? That was one of the pinnacles of my hip hop career. And it was so dope. He was a little boy and he's a gangster. Like to see it, like in that moment of that little boy play, like I've had playful, and I recorded with him and it was so dope. And you can tap into that joy and like ride it and like not let all the limitations and the expectations and the identities hold you back. Like that's my goal. And that's what I do in each moment, whether I'm writing a book, whether I'm writing a song, while I'm coaching people. Is it all over the place? To some might feel that way. Am I building it? Does it take longer to build? Yes. But it matters to me. I don't care care what matters to you. That's your
Yeah.
job. That's your business. You know?
Right. Yeah. Well, you just touched on a couple things that I've been personally coming to terms with, and also something that I feel like whenever I mention it to people, it's like their mind is blown. It's like the first time they've ever thought about it in this way, but it's the idea of identity, right? And
Mhm.
the things that we've been trained to view as our identity versus what is actually our real identity, right? So we've been
Right.
trained, identity is our job, it is where we live, it is our whatever family situation, it is the people we hang out with, the things that we do for fun and blah blah blah, right? And
Yeah.
all of that is based upon a lot of exterior things, right? And the second that it's stripped away from you, you get fired from your job, your industry crumbles because of technology, whatever it is. So many people go through this life crisis because they're actually not sure of who they are, right? Because that's who they thought they were, was this job title, this position, this daily life that they lived. And I'm curious for you, how do you differentiate your real core identity, like who you are as a human being, from what it is that you actually do?
I love that, and you're dope. Congratulations for even asking yourself all these questions, because this is
Hmm.
like, I have gone to hell and back, and gift God, right? Gift of desperation.
Yeah.
Like I don't align with identities anymore, like, because I've done a lot of spiritual work, and I love to be an ethereal, and as a meditation teacher, as a Reiki healer, like, I know that I'm not this body. I'm a spirit in a meat suit. I no
Hmm.
longer, like, I'm from Boston. I moved to New York. I'm a rapper. Nah, like,
Right.
I get a little tripped up. I'm a poet. Like, we have to say this stuff for people to know.
Hmm.
But I'm a spirit in a meat suit, and this is my body temple, and I'm
Right.
here to channel the divine. Okay, as an artist, as a healer, I will share and express to you what that means and what the identity is. But I no longer let outside sources, especially a job, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying, like, or people or places or things that define who I am. Like, I
Yeah.
define who I am. And I no longer have any idols, because, like I say, don't meet your idols. Like, people you think, like, it's like God now and spirit and like Thich Nhat Hanh, and like, people who, like, spiritual realms, who have peace, inner peace,
Mhm.
like, and the ability to have confidence in my word without defending, rationalizing, minimizing. And y'all, this is why we get coaches. So everybody out there who's like, this sounds good, get a coach, get a healer, go to church,
Yeah.
but a church that aligns with you. I don't even know. Do what you need to do. I've done
Right.
it all to get here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes
I,
sense.
it,
I don't have identities. I don't, like,
yeah.
identity crisis. It sucks. Like, as an artist and growing a business, like, oh wow, I'm a business owner, is something that I'm having a hard time holding that identity, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I've worked with people my whole life. So that's like
Yeah.
learning new skills, right? That's
Yep.
all that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, I think there all that you're saying is true, and I think there's a lot of conversation, and I want to touch on not meeting your hero, so remind me if I get off track. But I definitely want to get to that, but I want to stay on validation, right? Because you talk about
Okay.
like shedding the part of yourself that is looking for external validation, right? But the
Yep.
difficult part about what we do, as speaking from an artist perspective, is that so much of ourselves is also our work, right? If I'm a computer programmer, yeah, I created that thing, but it's not emotionally me, right? But as a writer, a poet, an artist, whatever it might be, most people are using real life experiences and things that touch them, and this is their therapy. They're putting their emotions out there into some sort of physical or audio, experience, right?
100%. Yep.
So it's hard then to separate yourself from that. And I know a lot of people say, well, once you put it out there, it belongs to the world, not yourself anymore, right? But it's hard then when you get the critiques or the door slammed in your face or any of those things to then not receive it as that is saying that there's something wrong with me, because I put my whole heart in this project. It is me to a sense, and this person is denying it, right? So
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
curious for you on your journey. How do you walk that line and not allow yourself to have that much attachment to the things that you create?
So I listened to the Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, over and over and over and over when I was learning mindfulness 20 years ago. I
Hmm.
was actually in sets. I was with, I forget, one of the Wu-Tang's manager. Random moments would happen even 20 years ago. He handed me the book called Seed of the Soul. Like, I'm in a hip hop, like, I don't even know, we're
Yeah.
in the somewhere. It was some random stuff, but these little universal nuggets. I held on to, right? And I realized that I was allowing people to validate me, whether it was whoever it was. So I had to do a lot of inner work to understand that like all I have is right now. Like it's more about that mindfulness, the power of the I need to find my higher power right now. I need to find my angels right now, my ancestors, and tap into that right now and put this to the world. And honestly, if entertainment ain't for everybody and build a strong, so like as an actor, honey, I do like Meryl Streep said, you do 100 auditions and get one. Meryl Streep didn't get a big break until her 40s. You know what I mean? Like, so it's about the muscle and really being honest with myself, like honesty. Like, can I take this? Is this going to like really take an honest inventory about like this? Do I belong here? And if it's doors are constantly shut and I'm trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, I need to reroute. I need to get some help and really, really rethink this, what I'm forcing. I don't force anything now. I flow. No, like, you know what I'm saying? And that brings me to the ability to be like, all right, I'm gonna put this out there, you know, forever. Even with Spotify, I didn't want to put myself on Spotify because I don't get paid. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And I'm like, get back in a label. It was hitting. I was like, all right, well, I'm independent, and everything shifted. And I realized that was just old identity. That identity had to die. So I have many times in this lifetime, and I grieve those old selves. And I have to have ceremony, and I have to realize that I'm growing up. I'm no longer that lost 20-year-old young girl I was. Identity died. I let that go, and I allow a new identity for myself, because, you know, identity is the topic, and a validation for myself in the present moment. You know what I'm saying? And go within, because I realize everything I'm seeking outside of me is a false illusion. The only thing I have control of is my insides, if I train my mind to do that.
Right. No, 100%. And I think even, you know, to your point of somebody like Meryl Streep, obviously we look back now on her career and her body of work, and it's obvious that the talent is extraordinary, right? Yeah. But it speaks to the fact that human beings are only able to sort of receive based upon the experiences that they've had, right? So nothing is inherently good nor bad. It's just not being received by the right person, right? Or those people haven't arrived to the place that they need to be to appreciate a particular form of art, you know? And that's why things like musical tastes are subjective, or art in general is subjective, right? Because my experiences in life and the things that my ear is now trained to pick up on as good because of my experiences is going to be different than the person next to me, right? And neither one of us is right in that. And the unfortunate part is we live in a world where everybody is pushing each other out of the way to voice their own opinion on something, right? As if they're an authority on it. And that is sort of where you have to protect yourself at the end of the day, you know, and not to say you can't take criticism that is, you know, going to give you good information to make you better, but never internalizing something as it means something about you personally, right? It's again,
discernment.
Yes, exactly. Have that discernment. But I am curious. So, because one thing you talked about, kind of pivoting, right? Which I think is a huge reason why I'm where I am right now. This was not the plan whatsoever. But I never got married to an idea, no matter how passionate about it I was. I always kept an open eye for, is something else showing me like a light that I should be following towards, right? And that's difficult though, because in those moments, your mind plays games with you, right? You can think to yourself, this isn't working, I need to try something else. And maybe that is the case. Or maybe you just need to kind of put in a little bit more of that time into this, and you need to hear a couple more no's before you get that yes. And I think that's always the difficult part for people to navigate, in knowing that, no, I've given this my all. I've done everything I could. This obviously isn't working. I need to figure out what is actually going to work for me, versus I just need to kind of keep my head down and maintain my thick skin, because the yes is on the other side of this next couple doors, you know? Have you figured out a way to make that discernment in the moment? Anything that works for you in a practical sense when you're kind of when you're faced with inevitably one of those decisions where you can either pivot or you have to push a little bit harder?
Yeah. So my inner compass, right? Like, for instance, like with music and acting, I'm excited. I know I will book something. Like, it's like, let's put that aside for now and focus on building my healing company and focus on my coaching and my yoga and my breath work and my art, like inspiring, motivating people. Because
Sure.
it's like also when I take a break from things because I'm born creative. Like if you're an artist, like nobody really chooses to be an artist because it's so challenging, right? To be
Sure.
successful, like, and then have success, lose success, have success.
Yes.
There's no loses, honestly. It's all wins. But like, have a lot
Yeah.
of money, lose a lot of money, get a deal, whatever. All of those accolades or how we judge ourselves in award shows. But like, none of it's a loss. Like all that, like it's all I have an awareness of my rich blessings from all my life experience, and I have now a wisdom to be like, all right, let me pause on that. You know, like when you take a shower, you have a good moment, you come up with a good idea because there's no pushing and ideas and personalities like to make it happen. So like all of my acting training, all of my training, like number one thing, like the creative flow state is like take a break, put it down, walk away. You know what I mean? So I kind of I do that as a tool with everything I do. You know, I'm no longer like, I love music. I'm creating for the fun and for the joy and my fans that I have. Can it grow? Awesome. Do I want it to grow? Yes. Is my life dependent on it? No. I'm creating for God and for spirit, gift of divine, not religious. But so I take it, and I have a tribe of people around me that I trust. I now have people that I can go to that will tell me, you know, this is good. This is, you know what I'm saying? Be an honest, you know, committee in my life, have a board table of people that I trust. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think that is a lot of people surround themselves with yes people because it feels better, right? You know, and you know, at the end of the day, you have to make that decision for yourself of like, do I want people that are going to push me even when it's uncomfortable to actually be the best, or do I just want that constant validation from the outside world, you know? And I also like what you said, kind of taking a pause, right? You're allowed to take that breath for yourself. And I think with separation comes clarity oftentimes, right? So when I'm not wrapped up in this project and, you know, all that I thought was going to happen and manifesting this and manifesting that, when I separate from it, you know, and take a break, I can then begin to see it for what it is and make a decision from that place, you know, rather than one of whatever desperation or, you know, or disappointment, you know. And I think that that's a great sort of mindset to have, because we think we have to be going 100 miles an hour at everything all the time, you know. And sometimes the best thing we can do for our work and our passion is take a break from it and focus on something else for the time being, you know. I think that that's something I've seen to be true in my projects that I do, where I get really excited about something, we begin doing it, my attention goes somewhere else, and I'm okay with sort of saying, okay, we're going to table that for a second. Let me go where the sort of, it is like a divine energy, whatever's coming through me right now, wherever that inspiration is coming from, let me follow that. And then eventually I'll get back around to that thing if it truly is something I'm interested in. And I think being okay with that, it's easier said than done, you know, when you're driven and you have an idea of how you think everything is going to go, because I think you do need to also create plans, you know, to just kind of know where you want to take things to a degree. But you have to walk that fine balance of knowing when direction is needed and knowing when you need to just kind of be free in your creativity.
Yeah, having that, like, you know, like when a puddle, like when the water sits still, like a muddy puddle, when it sits still, it's clear. You know, getting that clarity. And like you said something key, which was me. I had to let go of every yes person in my life because they were killing me. They were keeping me partying in all these studios and just degrading myself, and like all these yes people who just want to be in it for the wrong reasons. Get rid of them. And just like me and my wife, I'm so glad we have a relationship. Everybody in my life, I want a mirror. We're all mirrors. But like I tell my friends, like, are you willing to, like, I want to grow. So tell me what you can see from the observer, because I'm subjective. Everything is subjective, not just art. Honesty is subjective. So when someone's lying to themselves and talking to me, are they lying to me? No.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think even when you're looking at your circle, we've talked about that a bunch. If you have people in your circle that want you to be a yes person, how is that beneficial to either one of you? And obviously I can't control them and how they feel, but I can control myself and say, this person is not on a journey of growth like I am. So, you know, that's just not somebody that I need to have in my life, because I think, again, like you said, everybody is a mirror. So if they're not willing to grow for themselves, they're also not going to assist me in my growth process, right? So really, what service are they providing in my life at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
because relationships are all transactional, and that doesn't mean it in a dirty way. It means we're all giving each other energy. We're all giving each other time. We're giving each other love, whatever it might be. But the relationships are supposed to be reciprocal and transactional in some sort of manner, and
you're receiving, like getting clear on, wait,
exactly.
don't be going like, and being that
Yes.
radical disruptor. I'm a disruptor, yo. I'm a radical person that most people, I'm not for everybody. I'm blunt,
Sure.
I'm honest, I'm gonna keep it 100. And people who want to stay asleep, I am not for you. And learn who you are for. And that's okay. Because there's how many people, 9 million, like we got how many, 8 billion people? 7 billion people want to stay asleep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's even more.
Yeah, no, 100%. The majority of people want to stay asleep, unfortunately, Yeah, no, it's very true. And I want to get back then to also not having human idols is something I heard you talk about, because we build these people up, right? And we expect them to be perfect in our mind. And it's always like the age-old adage, you never want to meet your heroes, right? And I've had the unfortunate, I guess, pleasure of meeting many of my heroes and then being disappointed by the experience, like going through the whole process of manifesting a relationship with this person only to be let down by the quality of said relationship because of where they are in their life currently, right? And I think it kind of lends off to that conversation of everything being transactional or reciprocal, right? Where you need to take from people what is, I don't want to say beneficial because that sounds dirty, but what feeds you, right? And you need to be able to separate trying to make it something more than it is, right? And I think that is with any relationship or partnership in business, whatever it might be. Like maybe you have somebody who is a great business partner, a good person, but y'all aren't going to connect on like a deeper level where you're going to be like doing yoga together. And that's okay, right? Because that relationship is functional as what it's supposed to be, a business partnership, right? And I think the problem is when we have these sort of like virtual mentors, which I'm big on, like, even if you don't have people that inspire you in your city, you can still find people on the internet that bring you what you need, But understanding the humanity that they are human beings, that they're flawed just like any one of us, and knowing what you should be receiving from them and where to kind of draw that line, I think is a weird balance to have.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think that like I had the unfortunate thing to meet a lot of my idols too. And I think that helped my spiritual process, because when that happens, there's a disappointment, there's a grief, there's a sadness. And I'm like, oh, wow. So that's also an awakening, because I woke up moments when I realized like these people do not give a damn about me. These people are horrible. You're making this dope art. You're powerful. You're ugly as fuck. You are like violent. You're violently abusing everybody around you. And I'm not going to say names, keep it open, but like that, it broke my little heart, you know what I'm saying, who was inspired by these people. And I'm like, okay, you know what? So that expanded, and I was like, it's got to be more. So I stopped looking in the music industry for idols or the now, because the music industry ruined it. I don't have no TV idols. I'm like, yo, I already know. We are ego. It's ego and it's image. So for me, it was like when I sat with these Native American chiefs and I was doing these peyote ceremonies and praying and seeing my ancestors, I was like, this is who inspires me. This man, this Indian Native American chief fighting to save his whole community. I'm like, okay, so just shift it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had a friend of mine. I had always felt this way when I began to really get into the upper echelon aspects of the entertainment industry, where there was people who were serious movers and shakers, and I was making a living just doing the entertainment industry thing in radio. I began to have like an identity crisis again, where it was kind of like, this is my passion. I'm doing things that I'm passionate about, but I'm surrounded by a lot of superficial people and an industry overall that is incredibly superficial. And so how do I exist in this world where I can't relate on a deeper level to anyone around me? Essentially, that was something that I struggle with. And I had a friend of mine fairly recently kind of say to me, he was just kind of making his observation. He's telling me his theory is that anybody who wants a career as an entertainer and wants to be famous or any of these things, there's some sort of psychological thing that they're not dealing with that is driving them towards this outside validation, right? And at the time I was a little bit offended, but I received it. And then I thought about it and I was like, you're absolutely right. I'm trying to validate myself for all the women that turned me down, or the, guy friends of mine who, little broed me or whatever it was, right? I'm using this as a vehicle to prove all of those people wrong in some sort of way, and make myself feel like I'm bigger than how small those interactions made me, right? And that was a really hard pill to swallow, but I think it was crucial because it got to this place of honesty, right? Where I began to strip away all of the aspects of it that I hated and that actually drained me physically when I was a part of them. And I got really focused in on just building my own little bubble where I can create and be as passionate about the things that I'm doing and create things that I love and that are honestly me. And I have as little amount of interaction with the outside part of that as humanly possible. You know what I mean? I primarily work out of my own studio. I'm not going into our big studios in the city anymore and having to deal with people on a regular basis. I've cut out all of those things. And I think that is sort of the balance that I've had to find. Obviously, in doing this, and if it's going to be your job equals money, business, right? You have to deal with certain aspects that you don't like. And I think this could be applied to even just people outside of art, but whatever it might be. But it's finding that balance of what is the bare minimum I have to expose myself to this element that I don't like, and then still be able to function doing the things that I am really passionate about. I'm just curious if any of that kind of has resonated with you.
Well, thank you, Dramos, because I see you healing little inner Dramos. I can see your inner child. Like that's the deep. No, for real. Thank you for waking up, because I know so many heads in the business that stay that ride because they're going to get the money, power, prestige, and don't want to wake up. That's them. But like, congratulations for choosing yourself, because I chose myself. I have been there, and if I did one thing that would, so many almost moments, like I was there, I would have died. Thank God I listened to that. Thank God my spirit. So I'm like, to be childlike, to go back and to be able to create. And I define my energy now, right? And I create so that when I step into these rooms and these board meetings and pitch something, I tune the energy of that room. It no longer tunes me. And that takes a lot of practice, because I don't want to hide. I don't want to play small, because I was traumatized silent as a girl, even in these rooms, and these big power signed with all these big power players, stars, silent. I terrified to speak because of these personalities in the room. No more. So I've work to be like, yo, I do surround myself with love. I'm an energy. I am a very, 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 I have very high values for the energy that is around me, because I know what I've been through. But I want to bring that and create community. So thank you for creating this community, because we're talented. We have, but there's so many toxic rooms in the entertainment business. But there's so many good people like you who want to break free from it and not crumble us.
Yeah.
So it's a new experience.
Absolutely. And what I've realized is, by me taking that step, the message is hitting the right people, right? Those who have felt like me, but just didn't know what to do or didn't have the confidence in themselves to break away from it. I'm seeing them ask me questions randomly. It'll come up in conversation. And I'm like, the message is getting out there to people. The good people are receiving it. They're questioning why they do the things that they do. And that's why it's important to speak your truth, right? Because you don't know who's listening. And me speaking my truth or you speaking your truth may have just given somebody the confidence boost that they needed to heal their own inner trauma at the end of the day, right? Or begin asking the right questions finally. You know what I mean?
Intention, am I intention?
Yes.
Like we don't go through all of this to stay silent. Like, let me jump through the window, break the glass, get cut up so everybody can walk through it.
Right. Absolutely. Right. And I think, some people find that more difficult than others, whatever it might be. We all, I think, have a different role to play in it. But, none of us should remain silent or hide our true selves, because, again, the bigger picture at hand, the effect we could possibly have in a positive way by just expressing ourselves authentically is so incredibly important for the course of our time here, sharing this earth with the other people that live on it as well. And that leads me. Yeah, go ahead.
That's what kept me going, just to be honest. Like, I'd be in this hip, like 3 people that would come up to me, because I was always honest. I would be talking about what I survived, and like there would be those people them up, be like, yo, you just gave me so much hope. Like, I don't want to kill myself. So many in my DMs, like people like and I would hold on to those people because it ain't about everybody else. I'd be like, yo, if I help one person today not kill themselves, let them know that I was where you are and I got help. You can too. Let me show you. I am the proof.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's recognizing the power lies in not going wide, but going deep, you know? And I think even in music, if we break it down in the simplest form, there are so many pop artists who have had a hit on the radio that we've never heard of again, that I know the song, but I couldn't name the artist, you know, whatever it might be. And they had a song that we all heard for the summer and was fun to listen to in the car, but they never had a profound impact on somebody's life at the end of the day, right? They like the artist that had a core impact on me that I still listen to this day, that I get chills, that I feel myself in listening to it. It was because they put themselves out there in a deep manner. And it didn't matter if the record was a hit or not. It was them coming through in an authentic manner that had a profound effect on my life, right? And I think at the end of the day, we have to begin making those decisions on what is actually important. You know, what makes us feel good in the present moment is not necessarily what is going to give us long-lasting happiness or fulfillment. You know, so that cheesy pop record may have you here playing a bunch of radio shows and touring for a year, but at the end of that, you're not going to have a career to sustain upon because you never created a real deep connection with someone. You know, you never had a profound impact that left a mark on their life. And I would almost guarantee that any of those artists that we're speaking of who had that one-off record that just happened to go big, they would look at the legacy artists who have made real connections with their audience, and they would give up that number one record for the ability to connect with people through their art on a long-term basis and the ability to express themselves in an authentic fashion, I feel like.
Yeah, no, so many share their mental illnesses because it's like it's authentic. And, you know, like it's just it breaks you down when you're a part of this machine and people have the breakdowns and fear and like it's not real. So like we got to what's real within us. And the secrets kill us, y'all. Secrets kills us. And there's so much that people hold back being this fake cookie cutter role model, whatever. If someone else is telling you to be something, it's not who you are, it's going to have repercussions, you know? I might as well be who I am.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think that goes even in the simplest form of life. If you are not being your authentic self, you're probably in a relationship or married and sharing your life with somebody who actually doesn't fulfill you on a real level. So you're living this half life, basically. You're not actually living a full life, a full human experience. You're living this shell of it. And maybe the facade is great. Maybe the house that came along with that person because of their income is amazing and it's comfortable to live in and you enjoy moments in it. But deep down inside, when the lights are off and it's just you and your thoughts, you know that something is missing, right? And it's because you didn't go deeper. You just kind of went wide and got the superficial validation rather than, you know, the real one that actually moves you to your core and has you waking up feeling overwhelmed with happiness, right? Like that's what I've recognized. Like fulfillment is an incredibly emotional and overwhelming experience in the most beautiful way. You know what I mean? Like I never realized that, at least recognized what it was until very recently, where I felt overwhelmed, but it almost made me nervous because I felt too happy. You know what I mean? Too good in the moment, you know? But it's also like, shit, that's what it's supposed to feel like. You know, like it's supposed to be overwhelming. Love is supposed to be overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like it's this overwhelming emotion, and that's how it's supposed to feel. And if it's not that for you, then you don't actually love whatever that thing is. You have the idea of it rather than the actual feeling.
All that training and that dogma and those isms and the ego wants to keep us trapped, like edging out, edging God out, like edging, you know, like that is not, in order for me to like allow and drop in, like I cry from being happy now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially for toxic masculinity, right? I feel bad for them, what's been put on them. And for women, Black, you know, Afro-Caribbean women, like I'm sick of being strong. Okay. I want to drop, soften. I want to soften, y'all. Like that's revolutionary.
Right. Well, 100%. And like, yeah, I think that the toxic masculine thing is something that I'm passionate about. I kind of want to dive into it with more of my work as I go on, because we do live in this society that like it's the jocks and cheerleader mentality, right? We celebrate the jocks who are the epitome of toxic masculinity, of big and strong from the outside, never show emotion. And then the cheerleaders are trained. That's what a man is, right? And then that plays out throughout the course of our lives. And it's obviously leads to toxic relationships for both sides of the fence, right? And yeah, absolutely. And what I've realized and what I try to push is it takes far more to be vulnerable, far more strength to have vulnerability with someone and to know that they can potentially hurt you with that, but still push forward and express that because you understand you're speaking your truth, right? And you understand that if you want that real feeling of passion, of love that you're searching for, it requires giving up that part of yourself and kind of putting your fragile self in somebody's hands, knowing that at any point they could break it, but understanding that the love comes from the idea that even with that power, they never take it. You know what I mean? Like they never
expanding that capacity and availability. And kind of like I always thought, because I came from the streets, so like but I used to hear like, the you got to worry about the silent person in the room, but really it was big ones, big personality, puffing up and freestyle. Like I would freestyle, not authentic because I don't want to break no one down. I want to build everybody up. But but now I am the quiet person in the room because I have inner peace.
Yes.
And because I'm observing, I'm not putting on a show. I'm not performing all day long. I'm at peace with myself.
Right. And one thing I just recently realized, like I thought there was something wrong with me if I was not fully expressing myself to someone or I was having a little bit of a wall. But what I've realized is that for the most part, it means that that person has not shown me a safe enough space to engage with them in that way. And that it's not a reflection of me being emotionally unavailable, because I know that I'm capable of doing those things and I have done those things. But it's having a real conversation. Yeah, this person checks all the boxes. I'm attracted to them. I do love them. But why do I not feel completely safe just exposing myself completely?
Yeah.
And that's something, again, on this journey of like really connecting with what love and fulfillment is knowing that that's one of my non-negotiables. Is it has to be someone or something where I feel completely safe enough to truly show up as my full self, good or bad. And without that, I can never feel completely fulfilled, be it a job or a person.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for saying that. That just makes me so happy. Like my inner child's like, yes, like what makes something I ask my clients immediately. I create safety with my wife, with our son, with my friends, with my family, because like safety, but also I help people create safety within themselves.
Sure.
Like I am myself. And do you know how long it took for me to feel safe as, woman, like tatted up, like I'm, you know what I mean? I'm mixed race, but I am not white passing. You know what I'm saying? Like people are coming for us, but I create an energy of safety now. So I'm not even available for that violence. Yes. And that's taken a lot of work. So thank you. I love that for you. And I hope everybody listening can find people that feel safe so they can open and bloom and feel safe to share and expand that capacity for vulnerability. Because I need to expand my capacity. Still parenting, like the kid mirrors everything. Like you got to heal all that trauma every age. Son, the work is never done, and that's good because we're alive.
Yeah, when the work is done, that means we're probably not speaking anymore and able to see the sunlight. So that's always a good thing. The last thing I want to talk about, I know we've been touching on it, but authenticity, I think, is at the core of so much of what we're speaking on, right? And I think many people find it hard to truly be authentic, or they equate certain things like being braggadocious, like you said, or being combative as them coming at you authentically, right? Like, and really those are just defense mechanisms to cover up what they're really feeling, right? So I'm curious for you in this journey, what does showing up authentically mean to you at this point in your life?
Authentically for me is to be able to embody myself and embody the vision I have for myself, which is to be happy and joyous and free and authentic and be childlike and not childish. And that's for everybody. And embody the goals and the aspirations I have to be a great wife, a great mother, and have impact. I no longer care about fame. I did younger. I want to have impact. I want to impact the world, and I want to help raise the vibration of our earth. Okay. So authenticity is me allowing myself to navigate along those lines with that goal in mind and my vision, and not get swayed off because I'm coming across all the walls and doors that get shut and people that are not into authenticity and want to shut at every turn. Don't let anybody else define my authenticity for me.
Mm, I love that.
Freedom from fear. You know what I'm saying? Nina Simone.
Yeah.
From fear, like tapping into like a bigger purpose than just my little. It ain't about me. It's about huge, bigger person. And you know what I'm saying? Bigger purpose.
Yeah, and I think like for me, the one thing that keeps reverberating through my brain, and you just reiterated it, was the statement you said of being childlike without being childish.
Yes.
And I think that perfectly kind of sums up, I think, what we should be striving for as we get into adulthood. And I think it's a great sort of mantra to keep in your mind as society inevitably tries to dictate what the norm is supposed to be for you at this point in your life. So I love that. And I want you to promote and talk about, I know you got a lot of projects you're getting ready to drop, music and things like that. But before that, would you mind maybe closing us out on a short meditation?
Yeah, I would love to do that. All right, y'all. Take a deep breath from me. Inhale through the nose. Audible exhale through your mouth. Release. I want you to put your one hand on your stomach and one hand on your heart. If you're listening to this and driving, please don't do that. Allow yourself to drop in. Inhale through your nose. Fill your stomach up. Breathe in. And exhale again through your nose. I want you to allow your jaw to loosen, and allow your shoulders to drop. I want you to visualize from the grand central sun, beautiful, beautiful golden light shining down, coming over your crown, coming into the ceiling of wherever you are right now, coming into your head, coming into your throat. Beautiful, beautiful white golden light shining all down your shoulders, shining down your heart, shining down to your sit bones, to your hips, down to your knees, down to your feet. Now visualize your feet growing roots into Mother Earth. Imagine your energy field now growing those roots. Your heart capacity expanding. Breathing into your heart. Visualize your heart expanding with the power of the universe of love, light, and healing medicine. Drop those roots down through the crystalline grid, through the water, through the rocks, down to the center of the earth, to the fire of Mother Earth. Now breathe in again, visualize the light coming up, that white light from the center of the earth coming up now through those feet, through those roots you grew, up to your knees, up to your feet, up to your hips, up to your heart, meeting that divine universal energy. Now this is running energy. This is a body scan, and just breathing, feel it expand 6 feet in front of you, 6 feet to the right, to the north, to the east, to the west of you, to the above you, to below you. And just breathe and feel your capacity expand. This is your energy field. This is spirit of love, light, and healing medicine here for you. Now visualize our angels now of love, light, and healing medicine dropping a beautiful green light, going right into your beautiful heart, shining into your beautiful heart, inviting you to visualize maybe your inner child, your inner Nina, your inner child that might want to say hi to you, or just even start the idea that you are one and all of you in all times and spaces available for you in this current space. And maybe tap into that childlike and not childish today. Call on playfulness, call on joy. Breathe in and expand and feel your capacity for love expanding, your own love, your self-care, your self-love. And when you're ready, just tap your fingers like you are here now and open your eyes and come back and just feel that presence, feel that energy that is here for you every second that you choose to tap into and desire to tap into that limitless abundance of love, light, and healing medicine from the sun, the water, the air, the alchemy from our ancestors. And I hope you bring that with you on the rest of your day and create joy and abundance and flow your life in peace. Ashe, 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 aho mataki asen.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Yes. Thank you. I got chills.
Yeah, I feel like I just feel lighter. You know what I mean? Which is always just a blessing to be able to feel like you just shed.
Yeah.
whatever weight was on top of you. So I appreciate you for that. So yeah, let's talk about, the projects that you want people to be on the lookout for. I know you're doing a lot of different things. Music has been calling your number again recently, it seems like. So what can we expect?
Yeah, I have a new single out called Been There, Done That. It's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, but I have the music video dropping for that July 23rd, 7/23/23. It's so
Mm,
fire. It's the first time that I've aligned my hip hop, persona or whatever with my new spirit, like an Afrocentric with my psychedelic spirituality. It's
mm,
beautiful. The director and really he knew me. I had the one like I'm so proud of it. You know how you make art and you're like, "Oh, it could have been better there." Like I have a lot of
yeah.
music videos. This my favorite, and I'm so proud. And the message is
Mm,
just like, find your peace. So I have that. I have my book, Trauma
mm,
Thriver, which is
mm,
the message, what I'm saying? Like my
mm.
little inner child right there.
I
It's,
love that.
it's, what I'm saying? Like the message to inspire you. And I have my coaching, my rooted in power healing. Like I'm here to help
Mm,
you wake up and tap to your higher self, to spirituality, to learn about energy, to learn that you can feel what we just felt real quick anytime.
mhm.
I teach people how to because I've learned from my teachers. And I'm a student forever. I got to always say that because I have teachers, I teach, but I'm a student. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Always. I love that. I think yeah, I yeah, go check in with her. What's your social? I'm sorry. I'm like a little bit I feel a little slightly emotional for a second. I don't know what just came over me.
Oh, I love
Uh,
you, Dramos. You got to be home with them. Like, I'm so grateful for Brent. Shout out to Brent for connecting us because dope
yeah,
people need dope. My socials
absolutely.
is at Blu Nile World, at BLUNYLE World, right? Also at Rooted in Power Healing, and at Revolutionary Anecdotes. I do have a
Mm.
podcast for healing generational trauma and recovery, people who are in recovery from all the addictions of whatever person, place, thing, substance. I got a dope podcast for you if you need some inspiration. So
Mm.
hopefully you'll drop show notes and I'll send it all to you too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. I'll tag you when we put all this up as well. Blue, has been amazing
Yeah.
to actually get to really meet you. And I'm sure we'll hopefully connect again in the short term, and then have you back on the show at some point. But this has been an incredible conversation. I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you for asking those dope questions and thank you for
Mhm.
creating this platform to be able to wake people up and help people get inspired. So thank you.
Mm, absolutely.
All right. Peace.
Man, big shout out to my guest, Blu Nile, for hopping on the show. Yeah, I don't know what came over me. At the end of it, I just felt like overcome with emotion. And I don't know exactly how to put it into words. I think it was just I think those conversations for me, and I kind of had started the show talking about this. And I'll keep this short because I want to get into our Ask a Gringo segment. But you know, as I've mentioned in the beginning of the show, and I think I've talked about this from time to time in different conversations, this path is hard. Like it's hard to live authentically as yourself. Ironic and fucked up and ass backwards as that sounds. We live in a world that is not conducive to people doing what makes them happy and living as their true authentic selves. That doesn't fit into these societal norms for the most part, generally speaking. And and then you put it in our culture, which is very generally conservative in many ways, and we deal with a lot of different circumstances. It makes it even harder to show up as yourself, right? I think especially if you're coming from a family that struggles and has sacrificed a lot to be here, your parents will guilt you for that, and make you feel like you are sort of uh, shitting on all their hard work and sacrifices, to follow your own path. But I say all that because I think a lot of what was coming up for me in that conversation, it was just feeling seen, you know, and sharing energy back and forth with somebody that I don't really know. I've only met technically for the second time, really, and even that first time we didn't have like a long conversation. It was kind of amidst a Q&A session, but being able to instantly connect with somebody who has a different background, so to speak, or different life experiences, but also similar ones to you, and just knowing that you're not alone in this crazy path of life, and it's difficult. A lot of things we talked about are incredibly difficult. Standing up for and being yourself is hard. having to make difficult decisions about the people around you because you're choosing, growth over complacency, and you're setting boundaries and all those things. Like, none of that shit is easy. It all comes with a level of emotion or a mourning period or difficult conversations. Like, there's just a lot, it's a lot of heaviness at times when you're following your own path. And I think in this conversation, I felt very seen in that. I just felt very connected. It was a reminder that I'm not alone in this. And I hope it was, for a lot of you listening. I think that's my, what I'm trying to get across here. Now, with that said, I want to hear from y'all. So we're going to have our Ask a Gringo segment. We're going to kind of keep it short. I know this episode is running a little bit long, but I feel like I've been slacking with the Ask a Gringo. So I want to make sure I get y'all's take on one of the topics we were talking about.
Ask a Gringo.
All right, y'all. So I know I've been slacking on the Ask a Gringo segment for a little bit of time now. So I wanted to get, y'all involved because I always love hearing from you. I think sometimes it's been like Instagram's turnaround. It like takes a while to get, the messaging out. And then by the time you do, it's like, all right, I got to finish this podcast. Because I like doing the podcast in real time for the most part. I don't like canning episodes for months and things like that. I like it to kind of, when I'm excited about it, that's when I want it to come out. So anyway, with that in mind, I asked y'all, and at DJ Dramos on Instagram, you want to be a part of this. What does showing up authentically mean for you? And I got a bunch of responses on this. I'm going to try and read a couple of them here because I know we're running a little bit long here. Let's see, at Natalie Ventura _ she says, not settling for relationships or jobs that don't resonate with my values or serve my growth. Yes, and yes. And Natalie was actually on a previous episode. She has a dope brand called Garden of Awareness, and she was talking about healthy eating and all that kind of stuff. But I agree with this. I think, and it's difficult, by the way, like in theory or in just like talking about it, or if you're giving advice or getting advice from someone, it's like, yeah, just don't settle, for less than what you feel like you're worth, whatever. Like, and that's like the advice we all get. But in those moments, it's tough because, you're talking about, she mentions don't settle for relationships that don't resonate with your values or serve your growth, right? I think it's easier when you find somebody and it's like, oh, our values just aren't the same. It's probably a little bit easier to kind of just move on from that. But what's difficult is when you meet somebody who's a good person, who maybe you enjoy being around, but then they're not on that same path of growth as you. That's where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because real feelings can begin to develop in that. You can have fun with this person, right? And again, they don't necessarily have to be a shitty person. Obviously, there are some, but what makes it harder at times is when you meet good people or you have good people around you, and you sort of have to put up this wall, or if it's like somebody you've potentially been dating, talking to, you have to kind of end things, not because you didn't like them, not because you didn't enjoy spending time with them, and maybe shit, in a different life, this would have been the perfect person, but because you've dedicated yourself towards growth and being better and learning more and unlocking more about yourself each and every day. And that's like going to be your journey of just trying to get better every day and grow and progress in every way. And recognizing that this person, even if they're a good person, you're just not at that same point in life right now. And again, I say right now, I think Blu brought up a great point. Like, that doesn't mean forever, but either way, it's not easy, and it's easy to settle. It's easy to say, this is a nice person. This is a good person. I enjoy that they treat me well. And it's easy to kind of be like, is it that big of a deal that, they are happy with sort of just being complacent in where they are and are not challenging themselves, or not on a healing journey, not trying to figure out, why certain things affect in the way that it does. And you can kind of make a case for it. You could say, it's not that big of a deal. Why can't I just do my own thing like that and they be who they are? And at times you can be patient with someone, and you can kind of say, hey, this is their journey. But there is going to be a point probably where you're going to get frustrated and say, we can't even really communicate anymore because I'm continuing to unlock different things about myself and operate in a different way. And it's becoming harder and harder to relate. And those are the conversations that are incredibly difficult. And it's easy, again, to fall into a rut where you just settle because you don't want to hurt that person because you do have feelings, or Um, you have this sort of vision of it in your head, like this sort of like fantasy in your head of your relationship and the way that um, it's going to be, or that it should be, and you don't want to sort of ruin that facade or that idea, or be alone, right? That's the other thing. None of us want to really be alone and not have somebody to share the highs with, and share our lows with, and just have that support system each and every day. So again, it becomes easy to settle for the wrong person, the wrong situation. But that's the roller coaster ride of being on this journey of personal growth and unlocking, more and more about yourself, and truly trying to live in a way that's authentic to you. And obviously jobs, same kind of thing. It's easy when there's a big check in front of you to just settle for a job that that doesn't fit into what you want. But that money does talk sometimes, and it's hard to turn those things down. But again, it's being okay with the ups and downs of it all, and knowing that it's all going to lead to a happier and more fulfilled life for you. All right, I'm gonna read one more because I know I was talking about I was just talking a lot. Not even talking about. That last one I went a little deep in. I think it resonated a lot with me. Let's see. At Orlando E. Romero says, "It means I can be comfortable in being who I am and express myself." And I think that's like the perfect way to summarize it in a very simple form. It's the idea of being unafraid to just show up as yourself. And again, as simple as something like this sounds, it's really hard to do that in the real world. And by the way, this doesn't mean like being inappropriate at work and like, oh, that's just my sense of humor. Like that doesn't mean you're showing up authentically. That just means you're being ignorant to what's around you, and you're not reading the room at the end of the day. But being authentic and being unafraid to express how you feel and who you are, and not dumbing yourself down to fit into a particular box or a particular crowd, that's what it's all about. And I think that's what Orlando is talking about, and I think getting to a place, and I'm beginning to arrive there, and I don't, obviously the work never stops, but getting to a place where, I guess a good example, I kind of touched on it a bit when it comes to like dating and things like that. For me, at this age that I'm at, and kind of getting back out there, I am really approaching it all very differently. I think previously I would have played the dating game a little bit, kind of how we all traditionally have, like the psychological aspect of it, of how much I'm going to give that person. Oh, text back. Oh, they text me back, and a half hour later, I can't text them back immediately. I'm going to hold back how I feel about them when I start to like them. I'm going to, hold back expressing myself fully because I don't want to kind of scare them away. Like all that kind of thing, like the psychological warfare that goes on in dating, and you're trying to like assess the other person and see where they're at, and then gauge how much you can actually give them of yourself. And I think for me recently, I've gotten to a place where I'm showing up incredibly authentic. I'm being unafraid to express how I'm feeling, good or bad. And again, there are certain, I have to push past some of the discomfort at times. But I think at the end of the day, I can be proud of the fact that I didn't hold back. And even if something I said or did was too much for somebody too soon, or not enough, or whatever it is, I think being able to always look back and say, that was me. I showed up as me. And if that person, that job, whatever it is, couldn't handle or appreciate or process it for what it was, then that's probably not the right situation for me. And that's not to say there are not going to be, hiccups in you expressing yourself, and somebody may misinterpret it, or they may not be on the same page. But it doesn't mean that, you're wrong for expressing yourself wholly. I think that's what I'm trying to get at with that. It's like we spend a lot of time suppressing how we really feel and trying to play these games and trying to win people over. And I just don't think life and relationships and people and love and happiness are emotions or things to be won at the end of the day. It's like either it works or it doesn't. Either it fits or it doesn't, or you know, or you work through it together if you're not on the same page, or you don't, right? Like it's not this game to be won. It's not this sort of like again, psychological warfare that you're trying to perfect. I think that the healthy way in living life and in any situation is like being able to look back and just say, like, that was me. I gave this person this thing, all of me. I didn't hold back. And however it ends or doesn't end is how it's meant to be. And that's okay. And I think authenticity is like just that mentality of just kind of like being okay with however things pan out, because you know that you're living your truth at the end of the day. I feel like I keep getting on my soapbox with these Ask a Gringo comments or responses, I guess. But man, thank y'all so much for participating at DJ Dramos on Instagram. You want to be a part of these conversations. And with that said, we're going to quickly tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew. All right, so, man, again, big shout out to my guest, Blu Nile, for hopping on the show. We're going to put the Instagram links and all that in the show notes if you want to go follow her and check out all that she's doing. And I think, again, like, I'm going to make it short because this podcast episode was long, I know. But for me, the idea and, like, the emotion that came to me in this conversation was just a reminder that I'm not alone. A reminder that as lonely as this path feels at times, as difficult as it is, as dark as it is, as much as it feels like I'm alienating myself from so much of the outside world, I'm not alone in this. There are other people who are on that same journey, and maybe it's not the majority of the world, but my tribe still does exist out there. And I think that's what is a kind of a reassurance I felt in this conversation. I think also knowing that the work, as difficult as it is, it needs to be done. Because me doing this work and me expressing myself authentically is allowing others to do the same. It's empowering others to go on that journey for themselves, to show them a different way than what we've all been taught normally. And I think that's incredibly important. And I think as like citizens of this planet, I don't think we're supposed to be living this sort of selfish life that kind of capitalism has dictated for us, right? And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I'll do a whole nother episode on that. But I think we're existing in this world that is incredibly self-serving. And it's the idea of, I worked hard for this, I built it, get your own shit type of thing. And it's this idea of like, we live in a world where you kind of are okay with stepping over somebody on the street who's suffering and not thinking twice about it, because that's their life, not yours. And I think there's a balance within that where you can get all that you want in this life, but also have compassion, empathy for others who maybe haven't figured it out yet, or others who are just suffering in general. And you want to then use your privilege that you've created as a means to help. And I think that's sort of the missing piece in this world that we have right now. And I think that's kind of a lot of what we've been talking about. And I think that's kind of, I don't know, the gist of it all, that conversation. And obviously authenticity, which is always at the core of who I am at this point in life and what I do. And just being unafraid to go on that really difficult fucking journey of living an authentic life. And we talked a lot about how difficult it is. But on the flip side of it, and we had kind of touched on it, I cry from happiness now. I literally, like, the other day was in my, like, just pantry, like, getting my, my shit together to make my smoothie. And I was overcome with just happiness and fulfillment. And I wasn't doing anything particularly special, right? I was just having an average morning. And I just felt overcome with fucking joy, and like emotionally overcome with joy. And that's fulfillment. It's not in the big flashy moments that give you that adrenaline rush. It's like you're literally just going about your day, and like all of a sudden you're just overcome with joy that this is your life. And yeah, that's sort of something I've been recognizing, and so happy that I've been able to kind of discover that. And on the other side of it, we talked about making a lot of hard decisions. And this will kind of be where I end it. The decisions that you have to make in this life for your own betterment are going to be difficult in various ways. But I think even as you are in that normal mourning period or sadness for whatever decision you had to make, or maybe you cut somebody out of your life, or you ended something, that sadness is still going to exist. The mourning period, again, is still going to exist. But on the other side of it, what I've realized is like there's this immense sort of internal validation, and like just looking at yourself and saying, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you because you put yourself first and you took a stand for yourself, and not in a selfish manner, but in a way that you said, this is what I need, or this is no longer serving me. And I've done too much work to get to a good place to then slow down my progress for this thing or this person. And it's not easy. There are going to be things that I'm going to have to readjust in my life. And I'm going to go through a period of some pain and discomfort. But I know what the best thing is for me. And I'm going to give that to myself. And like, that's the greatest gift you can continue to give to yourself ever, And it's not selfish. It's not like you're taking advantage of people or whatever it is. Like, you have to always make sure that you're good first before you can help others. And learning how to prioritize yourself and set those boundaries and then stick to them, and not settle or not get caught up in like the fear of it all is something to always be proud of, and something I hope that we're all sort of, striving for to get to that place. Man, now with that said, thank y'all so much for tuning in. This was like a fucking, I don't know, a therapy session for me, this entire episode, in so many different ways. So I appreciate y'all for coming along for the ride. At DJ Dramos on Instagram. You want to DM me to be a part of the Just Be Social Club, our monthly mastermind group. We're kicking off group 2. The last day to sign up is in 8 days. So we're almost there. Shoot me a DM if you want to get more info. We'll do a one-on-one like Zoom call, and we can kind of hash out anything you might have questions about, or you can email Brenda at Mind of a Young Lord for that. And man, we'll see you on Thursday for our Thursday Trends episode. JustBe.nyc, my wellness brand. We got candles on there. We got meditation pillows now. We got some dope merch on there I'm really excited about. So go check that out. And man, I'll catch y'all on Thursday again for our Thursday Trends episode. Till then, stay safe. We'll talk soon. Peace.